Hello, this is Dr. Dami Kabiao, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to build a calculator for a normal distribution function. So we want to do a normal probability calculator. We are going to use the standard normal distribution table, not the normal distribution table. So to start with, if I type equals norm dot s dot dist, that is the normal distribution, open the bracket. It takes two values, the z value and whether cumulative is true or false. That's it. But we would like this calculator to automatically calculate the z value given an x value, a mean, and a standard deviation. So to start with, I'm going to put in labels for x value, for the mean, the standard deviation, and down in my calculations, I'm going to calculate the z value, and then I'm going to get out from there the probability of a value x less than or equal to xi. So basically, I'm looking for the probability that x, that random variable x, is another variable xi. I'm going to do some changes and some corrections here later, but let's start from here. These three are my inputs, so I'm going to color it yellow and put borders around it. Let's say the mean of my distribution is 10. The standard deviation of my distribution is 5. A number 20 is 2 standard deviations above the mean. And I can see that because my mean is 10. 1 standard deviation is 5. 20 is exactly 2 times 5, which is 2 standard deviations above the mean. So my z value calculation, I'm going to use a formula. Even though Excel has a function for calculating z values, I'll just use the formula, and that would be equal to x minus the mean divided by the standard deviation, and that gives me 2. So z value of 2 means that my number is 2 standard deviations above the mean. Once I have the z value, then I can calculate the probability of a number, of getting a number that is less than my number, the one I'm looking at. And that would be using the formula norm.s.dist, open bracket, z, and cumulative is always true. So normally when I build a calculator like this, all the required arguments, I set them up as input cells in Excel. I set them up as input cells in Excel. And once I set them up, then I can use the calculator over and over again. When you're using the normal distribution, though, the cumulative function is always true because the probability of any one number is 0. So we always make it true, therefore no input for that, and that is your probability. Now, what is the probability? Once I'm done, the probability that x, I can also find the probability that x is greater than or equal to xi, which is 1 minus the probability that x is less than or equal to xi. And again, I'm going to format this as a subscript. And that's it. So I've got the two top probabilities, and this is simply 1 minus that value here, done. I'm going to format it as a percentage. add a couple of zeros because that's just normal. I'm going to print out the formulas here for later using Excel's formula text. Now I'm going to reduce the size of those formulas, make it less prominent, make it italics, and make the colors less in your face. I want to see where I have formulas, but I don't want it to be very prominent. So I always print out my formula so that I can track what I'm doing. If you look in the formula here, there are no numbers. Not really. All I've done is select the cells that will contain all of my values so I can reuse this. What about a number 5? 5 is one standard deviation below the mean, so my z-value will be -1. Calculates it and then calculates the probability, and we are done. I'm going to merge that, call it normal distribution calculator. I'm going to merge this and call it calculations. I'm going to format my work by putting a space at the top. And I'll put borders around everything, really thick borders. And borders around this one as well, really thick borders. And for my calculation, I'm going to give it a background color of a very light gray. But my header, I'm going to give it a background color of something a little bit bolder. I think I like green. So that is the end of my calculator that I can reuse. Now, we are looking at a situation where we have the z-value and we want to figure out what the probabilities are. What if we have the probabilities and we want to figure out the z-values? So we would do it in reverse, not in reverse. We would use the norm.s, the standard normal inverse function in Excel, open the bracket. It only needs one input, which is the probability. So if I have a probability, I can calculate the z-value and then calculate an x-value if it exists. So let's do one of that. I need a cell for my probability. And then I can calculate the z-value. Optionally, so this is compulsory, I can have my x value, that's optional. I can have my mean, again, that's optional. I'm going to delete this, I'm going to rewrite it later. Standard div, I'm just going to call it stdev, that's also optional. My z-value is calculated, and for my z-value, I apologize, I don't have an x-value. So for my z-value, I should be able to then recover my x-value if it exists. So this is easy. The formula to calculate the z-value is equal norm.s.inverse, open bracket, get my probability out, done. Now, probability has to be in percentage or in decimal form. So that's my z-value. The mean, I'm just going to select a random mean. I'm going to make it 10. Select a random standard deviation, 5. And I need a number that is 0.84 standard deviations below the mean. To recover the x, the formula is the mean plus the z-value times standard deviation. So the z-value times standard deviation gets reconciled first, and whatever that combo is added to the mean. If I press enter, my number x is 5.79. So equals formula text. I'm going to copy it, the formulas down for the two. I already like this formatting, so I'm going to click in here and do that. I'm going to make this a percentage. Oh, sorry, it's not a percentage. It's a number. But I'm going to reduce it to 2 decimal points. And my x value as well, I'm going to reduce it down to 2 decimal places. So this looks good. This is my inverse table. I'm going to merge the cells and call this normal inverse calculator. You can call it anything you like. I like the formatting here, so I'm going to apply it to here as well. Going to merge this and type calculations in there. Just to separate out my input from my calculations, so I'm going to take that and copy it. I'm going to put a border around everything. The border around the top is already there. And, oh, I might have to do this again. I like these formats here. I'm going to paint them on here and then go back and format this as a percentage. Maybe I add a couple of decimal places just because it's a percentage. So that's it. That is it. I've built the two calculators for you to calculate probabilities, and if you have probabilities, you can get the z-value associated as well as the x value associated. I will see you in the next video.